Pat Riley and the Miami Heat. They have a very simple task here, in my opinion, but they need to make this very simple move after the Heat Summer League has concluded. What is that move? Well, it's actually just to give out a two-way contract to Erik Stevenson. I am Nic Rohloff. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports, but I don't think anyone can downplay the fact that this year's Summer League was a massive disappointment when you look at last year's and how fun we had with Josh Christopher, Isaiah Stevens, Kel'el Ware, Keshad Johnson, Paul Larson when the Heat won the entire thing. Well, this year wasn't the case, but I do think there was enough of a bright spot with Erik Stevenson to greenlight the idea of giving him a two-way contract. But I do want to give some shout-outs to the first commenter club. Yesterday's video, these were the first 5 comments I saw. Shout out David, Jolly Green, D Money, Jake Smith, and TSAB. Shout out to the 5 of y'all. I don't know if y'all have your notifications turned on, but if you potentially want to get a shout-out in the future and be a part of the first commenter club, make sure you subscribe and make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss a video we put out because they are coming out daily. All right, let's talk about Erik Stevenson now, because when you go back just a year ago, you had 3 two-way contracts. You had Keshad Johnson, Isaiah Stevens, and Josh Christopher. Well, now Keshad Johnson got his standard deal, so he is under contract. Isaiah Stevens signed a two-way with the Kings, and Josh Christopher is no longer with this Miami Heat organization. Duncan Robinson went to the Detroit Pistons this offseason in a sign-and trade. So you lost 2 two-way players. You lost one of your best shooters, your best shooter probably, in Duncan Robinson. You need another shooter in the system because that's what Josh Christopher provided as well. Well, I think Erik Stevenson could provide that. And he showed me a lot of nice things during Summer League. You look at his summer for Miami where he appeared in 7 games, 2 games in the California Classic, and 5 Summer League games. Well, he was very consistent in shooting the 3. He shot 50% from beyond the arc in both the Summer League and the California Classic, while also shooting 4 3-point attempts a game. And it's not like he only shot threes. Like, he was able to utilize his 3-point leverage and get a back cut to the rim for an easy layup or get out in transition. He did average double-digit points per game in each of the 2 kind of Summer League leagues, if you will. The dude is an absolute sniper. I mean, this is what his calling card was when he was at college. It's what his calling card is in the NBA. And we know one thing, folks. If you can shoot the pill, you will find a roster spot in the NBA, at least to some capacity. We saw it with Cole Swider. We saw it with Max Strus, Duncan Robinson. And then those elite-level players that are able to keep a rotation spot and make a lot of money like Strus and Duncan have the ability to find other ways to impact the game. Duncan, it was his gravity into playmaking. Strus, it's his defense. Could Stevenson potentially do the same thing? I mean, it remains to be seen, but I wouldn't hate giving him a shot. And if you don't know who Erik Stevenson is, well, let's inform you a little bit more. He spent 5 years in college, couple years at Wichita State, couple years at Washington, South Carolina, and then he finished up his career at West Virginia. He then went undrafted in the 2023 NBA draft and has been in the G League for the past 2 seasons, playing for the Spurs affiliate, Mavericks affiliate, and then most recently this year for the Washington Wizards affiliate. Also funny, in between that time span, he actually went overseas to play for Cholet for a little bit before coming back to the G League. Now, this past season for the Washington Wizards, he was with their G League affiliate, but he also signed a 10-day contract with the Wizards February 18th. Now, he did not appear in any of those games in that 10-day span for the Wizards, and then was just sent back down to the G League affiliate. I think it's the Go-Go Wizards or whatever it is. But either way, he was actually on the Wizards NBA roster, at least for a couple games this past February. So the Wizards thought about giving him a chance. Could Miami do the same? More conversation to come here, but early call. Let me hear it. Would you sign Erik Stevenson to a 2-way contract? Type S for sign, type P for pass, pin comment on today's show, so go down and answer the question. I think it's important to educate people on the 2-way situation for Miami if you are not aware right now. Right now, Miami only has 1 2-way player. You are allowed 3 in the offseason and during the regular season. So there are 2 open slots to give out a 2-way contract. Here is where things stand. So technically, they do have 2 open spots. Vlad Golden is the one lock and one person under 2-way right now. But Drew Smith is basically back on a 2-way, which means we really only have 1 spot available. And why do I say Drew Smith is going to get that 2-way contract? Because we have seen it been reported by Barry Jackson and other people who cover the Miami Heat that by all accounts, it's pretty much a lock that the Heat will bring Drew Smith back on a 2-way deal. They were just giving Drew the potential option to sign a standard contract with another team. That did not come. It does not look like that will happen. So Drew Smith will be back on the Heat with a 2-way deal. And sidebar, and we're going to turn this into a quick Drew Smith discussion, I don't mind Drew coming back, which, by the way, is a complete 180 from what we did a year ago at this time to when I was furious when the Heat gave Drew Smith a 2-way contract again. Because Drew Smith, before last season, was one of the most annoying and worst basketball players that I have ever seen. But we have consistently heard, oh, the Heat really liked Drew Smith. Miami liked what he could bring to the table, and we were driving ourselves mad thinking why. Well, we finally saw what the Heat saw in the 14 games he played for Miami last season. In those 14 regular season games, he was averaging 6 points a game, about 2 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 1.5 steals, while shooting 50% from the field and 53% from 3. Drew Smith was an absolute menace on the defensive end of the floor. He was getting his hands in the passing lanes consistently, played excellent defense in a November game against the New York Knicks, stripping Jalen Brunson multiple times. This was before we officially chalked it up to where Terry Rozier was washed and cooked. And we were saying they should be playing Drew Smith over Terry Rozier. Now, as the season went along, it was evident that Rozier just lost it. But early in the season, before we came to that realization, I wanted Drew Smith to play more than Rozier because that's how good he was in those 14 games before he suffered his season-ending injury to his lower body. We'll see if he's going to be able to return. He's dealt with injuries a couple of years, but if he's able to come back and rehab and play well again on a 2-way deal, could really benefit the Heat. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel for daily content. And like I said earlier, make sure your notifications turned on because videos are coming every single day. And if you never want to miss a piece of content we put out, subscribe and turn on notifications. All right, that will end the sidebar on Drew Smith, though. I am not mad about him coming back. Let's get back to Erik Stevenson now. We showed his summer league stats, but now I want to look at his career G League numbers. Stevenson's G League numbers are just simply not as good as his summer league numbers. He did appear in 62 games, which the G League season isn't as long, so it's not the biggest deal. But he has a lot of gravity, and that's something we talk a lot about with Duncan Robinson, with Tyler Hero as a shooter. Is like when you have that type of gravity as a shooter, you have to force people to come defend you, which frees up your teammates, which is why him averaging 3.1 assists, what might feel wrong to some people and way too high of a number, well, it's actually what he did average in those 62 games. Now, the 3-point percentage is a little bit down, but I do have to imagine if he's playing alongside real NBA standard contracts, some of those looks would be a little bit more open, and he would be able to put up a better percentage. And I know a lot of people are going to look at me and say, Erik Stevenson's 26. Why would you want to give a 26-year-old a 2-way contract? And you wanted to go young. I understand that. But Miami has never shied away from giving out 2-way contracts to older players in the past. And we don't have to look that far in the past to come to this realization. Let's just look over the last 6 or 7 years. Duncan Robinson was given a 2-way contract initially in 2018. He was 24 years old. Max Strus was given his 2-way contract at 24. Vincent at 23. And Caleb Martin, although they gave him a 2-way deal after he spent a year or so with the Charlotte Hornets, was 25. So Erik Stevenson getting a 2-way contract this year with the Miami Heat at 26, I do not think is out of the ordinary by any stretch of the imagination. And these 4, by the way, turned out to be pretty good for the Miami Heat. So just because he's 26 doesn't mean that I would not be giving him a two-way deal. If you think he can play, if you think he can develop in your system, well, let's give it a shot, because the way he looked off the ball and as a three-point shooter reminded me a lot of Max Strus, to be honest, and it might just be the facial hair and haircut combination. But it did look pretty similar, and I think a lot of people picked up on that as well. Rounding out the show here in a second, but I got to let you know that this crazy sweatshirt sale is still going on. Not many sizes left, though, I'll be honest. Only small, medium, and larges, but I still did want to inform the fans that this is still available for $35, usually $69. Go to chatsports.com/Vice sale. Links in the description and comments of today's video. And when we talk about the two-way positions, it's not like there are better options out there. Like, I wish there were. I wish I was able to really have to debate in my mind what players I would like to give a two-way contract to. But the truth is, Miami has two spots to fill. I know Drew Smith is going to be one of them, but it's not like there's a lot of competition for the other one. Like, the only other players that I would consider from this Heat Summer League squad would be Javonte Cook or Myron Gardner. Gardner really didn't play until the final two Heat Summer League games, where he did average 17 points in those two outings. Now, Javonte Cook had a couple good performances, couple down performances, struggled with his shot from beyond the arc in Las Vegas, but shot it well in the California Classic. So, like, both guys show you something, but when I'm thinking about who can translate to the NBA and actually be a rotational player, I'm more likely to think it's going to be Erik Stevenson. And why is that? It's because he is a specialist. He has a carved out role as a three-point shooter. What would these two players' roles be? So that's why I lean Stevenson if you were trying to find someone to have a two-way contract from this Heat Summer League squad. Now, I would say this as well. I wouldn't hate getting another big man in the two-way system. I know we have Vlad Golden, and I know Golden played well in the final couple Summer League games in Las Vegas, but leading up to those final two games, he was very, very underwhelming, and I was a little bit disappointed with what Vlad Golden provided Miami. So he doesn't give me the most confidence in the world when it comes to his ability to become a rotational player for Miami. So maybe the Heat could look to give a two-way contract to a current free agent, someone that isn't on a two-way deal but played for a different team in the Summer League. Like, that is certainly an option as well. It doesn't have to be someone from the Heat Summer League roster. They could steal someone from the Kings or the Hornets Summer League roster, as long as they're not on a two-way contract right now. Let me know. Drop your take. Who should get the final two-way contract for Miami? I'm going to slot in Golden and Drew Smith. So who should get that final two-way deal? Should it be Stevenson? Should it be another player? Let me know your thoughts. And we're going to round out the show here, and I'm going to go back to my point about the big man. I am really disappointed, and I really wish that we saw more from the other two big men on this Heat Summer League roster, Omar Ballo and Dane Donja. Donja gave you a lot of good things in spurt moments, but his conditioning was horrific, and his foot speed was terrible defensively, to where I don't really know if he could ever find a role in the NBA. To me, he is much more similar to Kenny Lofton, the big fella that has been in the G League for a while, but he just can't play in the NBA, but could be a G League legend. And Ballo didn't provide anything either, even though he's a really big body, and he was a highly touted recruit playing for Arizona and Indiana at the collegiate level. Just wish I saw more from those two, but not the case. That'll do it for today's show. Appreciate everybody for hanging in here and watching us. We're going to continue to have you lined up with content the rest of the week in the off season. Subscribe to the channel and join the family here at the Heat Report.